Wammo Breakfast. Time for the gaming segment. We call it... What do we call it? Just Gerard Campbell, Game Junkie NZ on Twitter and also on stuff.co.nz.
Good morning.
I'm sure we started with a name. Good morning. We did start with a name a few years ago. I can't remember what it was.
Oh, I can't remember. Yes, I'm sure you came up with some clever...
Something lame, like
thing.
Strap your game on or something.
Strap your game on.
Something stupid.
Couldn't get away with it now. That's not very PC. Strap your game on.
Strap your game on. But it was a round of E3 that we started in 2009. 2009.
9, yes, yeah. 9. Yes, my 63 years.
And we did start talking about some of the announcements at E3, but we'd only had the first day last week.
Yes.
So I wonder what else really stood out. I mean, it seemed like a bit of a flat E3, to be fair.
Yeah, well, last week we were talking about the pre-show press events where, you have the major players in the industry sort of showcase this is what we're doing for the year. And, of course, we had Sony and Nintendo. And Sony sort of showed off... as they do, they sort of open and close with their big games. And Sony started their press conference with a game called Beyond Two Souls, which is the next game from David Cage, who did Heavy Rain on the PS3, which was okay. Fit too many quick time events for my liking. And then they closed their press conference with Naughty Dog's The Last of Us, which is sort of a post-apocalyptic survival game, and it's pretty brutal. It's the trailer that they showed had the two main characters, a girl called Ellie and a chap called Joel, confronting these bad chaps who are looting this apartment block, and it's pretty in-your-face violence. The final trailer finished off with Joel giving this guy a shotgun blast to the face, and it just cut away as he fired the trigger. So it's pretty brutal stuff. And then between that, they had the return of Kratos, the God of War, and God of War Ascension, something called Wonder Book of Spells, which uses a PlayStation Move, which is a collaboration with J.K. Rowling's Pottermore thing. Used the PlayStation Move, which is their motion controller, to sort of act as a wand. Sony pulled out some good games. I mean, a lot of people, they want to see the games, so they put out the games. There's no real hardware focus for Sony this time.
Was it Sony that came out with a collaboration for kids with the Harry Potter author, some kind of pop-up type book, virtual book?
Yeah, that's the Wonder Book. Wonder Book of Spells. Yeah.
Oh, that's what you're talking about. Okay.
Which you use the PlayStation Move is you can hold it. It's a physical thing you hold in your hand with a glowing ball on it, and so they were moving around and making magic spells and that sort of stuff. Right. So I mean, it could be pretty intriguing. Also, we had Nintendo, who had, before the press event, they'd held, I think, a YouTube video which it put out, which sort of showcased more of the Wii U, which is their new console, which sort of gave a few specs and sort of controller, that it can support 1080p, and you can plug in it'll support up to 2, I think, of the tablet-like controllers. But I hear that if you... Just rumours are saying that if you plug in 2, then the frame rates of some games drop quite dramatically. So that'll be a bit of a bummer if that happens. And then the other press event sort of concentrated on a lot of games. They announced, I think, something like 23 games. It's a new Super Mario for Wii U, a new edition of Batman Arkham City called Armored, I think, for the Wii U. Something called Nintendo Land, which is almost like a theme park type thing. So I think all in all, sort of the pre-show events from the three major hardware manufacturers were pretty flat. I thought they were pretty flat in terms of what we saw. But probably the press event for me, which probably had the most interesting game, was probably the Ubisoft one, which got a game called Watch Dogs. And I sort of liken it to, if anyone's seen, there's a TV show on TV1 called Purse of Interest, which sort of has this sort of shadowy guy and his handler who, the handler guy created this computer which can hack into every single, camera system in New York and can determine who's going to get, someone's going to get killed. And this Watchdog sort of is that same premise. It's the main hero guy can actually sort of hack into any sort of system in the city, so he can change traffic lights so that it'll cause a crash, or it'll stop the person he's chasing down. So so that seemed to be really quite interesting. So I think in terms of the pre-show events, are pretty flat. I wonder whether especially Microsoft and Sony are really just sort of waiting until next year when they'll sort of announce their next gen consoles. You know, so they don't want to sort of get too many cats out of the bag at the moment. So
personally, over the next 6 months, any particular game you're looking forward to?
I think that this Watch Dogs certainly looks really interesting, but I don't think there's rumours saying that'll be a next gen, so I don't think we'll see that soon. I'm sort of interested in Far Cry 3. I think that could be interesting to see where that's going to go from Ubisoft. At the top of my head, though, there's nothing really that sort of sticks out. You know, there seems to be a lot of sort of sequel-y type games coming out at the moment, so it's just going to be. How about you? It's going to be interesting.
Still hanging out for the remake of a classic game from the mid-90s on the PC that's going to be coming out for PC and also consoles. XCOM. Enemy Unknown or Terror from the Deep. I can't remember what they're going to be remaking.
There are two.
Enemy Unknown.
There are two XCOM games being made, aren't there? There are two.
There are. There's like a first-person shooter one, and then there's one that's styled like the original. Game. Strategy.
Yes. I think that those. Yes, thank you for reminding me of those. I think that those will be very interesting because the XCOM one has got a lot of followers. It'll be interesting to see where they're taking this. You know, because it's one of those classic PC franchises. So it'll be very interesting to see which sort of direction it goes and how well it works. From what I hear, it's actually looking pretty well. It's actually coming off very nicely. But I think that we'll probably sort of hit the lull at them. Now, sort of June, July, and then things will probably sort of start ramping up sort of August, September, October when we start seeing the big guns.
Yes.
Things like Halo 4, which is coming out in November, and Call of Duty Black Ops 2, and those sorts of just the big budget.
Do you think that any of those will break box office records again?
Oh, look, I'm sure Call of Duty 2 Black Ops 2 will, just because, lots of people buy the Call of Duty games, even though that they don't really sort of change their style throughout the ages. And I'm sure that Halo 4 will make a killing as well. I'm sure that those two will. If I may be wrong, but I've got a feeling that they're sort of coming out a similar time frame too. So it'll be very interesting to see who will win. The box office record for the most, because as Halo's got a huge following, and there's a lot of interest in Halo 4 because it's being done by 343 Industries, this is the first Halo game that they've done, so it's going to be interesting. People want to see what direction they've taken it in, and it looks pretty interesting. So there's going to be the huge Halo fans who want to see where this goes, and you've got the Call of Duty fans who will buy each new edition, and just hype it up. So it's going to be very interesting. It's going to be interesting with those ones. But I'm sure there are lots of little gems that aren't major blockbusters.
Indeed. Well, Gerard, really appreciate your input on the show and taking time out to talk games over the last few years with us. Of course, you'll be continuing your work over at the technology section in the stuff.co.nz website, the Game Junkie blog there. Also on Twitter as well, twitter.com/GameJunkieNZ. Thank you, Gerard.
I should have got a tissue because I'm, shed a tear.
Sure you are.
End of an era. All the best with you, Glenn.
See you online, pal. See ya.
See you. Bye.